Good morning, world. I'm your host, Steve Rao of World Edition on behalf of International Broadcast Media Television, IBMTV. And on World Edition, we talk about sustainable innovation, global affairs, and what we can do in the United States and around the world to build back better and stronger as we emerge from the COVID pandemic. And it takes big, bold ideas and vision to do that. Today is Earth Day. I'm wearing my green tie. And this day started in 1970. And wherever you are, think about what you can do as a citizen, as a government leader, to help our planet avoid climate disaster. So we have a great, wonderful, beautiful planet, planet Earth, that we can share with generations to come. On that note, I wanted to begin my monologue today to talk about President Joe Biden's initiatives on climate change, and then introduce a very, very special guest from Riot. And I'm going to weave that into my remarks. President Biden has made climate change a centerpiece of his presidency. He has paused new oil and gas drilling on federal lands, proposed a $2.3 trillion infrastructure plan that would remake the U.S. power grid and add 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations, among actions intended to sharply cut fossil fuel pollution. His bold leadership goes even further, though, as today he's hosting a virtual global climate summit, a big step after he had joined the Paris Accord, that he would lead us in the right direction. He's at least promising to cut by 2030 gas emissions at least in half, greenhouse gas emissions. And he plans to do this by reaching that 50% target, which would double the nation's previous commitment and help his administration prod other countries for ambitious emission cuts as well. And I want to then segue now into saying that it was in his book on climate change, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, that Bill Gates, yes, the founder of Microsoft and also one who is doing a lot in dealing with the COVID pandemic through the Gates Foundation, said that policies and executive orders are not enough to address the climate change and achieve our goal of net zero emissions. He said it's the innovation pipeline. It's developing startups and entrepreneurs, working with governments and philanthropists and world leaders that can help us solve great problems. He manages a $2 billion fund with Mike Bloomberg, and he's invested in microbes that have been developed into protein-based yogurt, plant-based meats, carbon filtration systems that inject carbon out of cement, as manufacturing is producing about 80% of our emissions. But part of that strategy as it relates to innovation is smart cities, the Internet of Things, the innovation that we see every day. And I wanted to have a guest that could come today and talk about the very, very exciting work we're doing. We're honored to have with us Amber Cobb, a leader at Riot, who works closely with my friend, their director and CEO, Tom Snyder, who has also been on the show. We want her to talk about sustainability and innovation from the prism and perspective of the Internet of Things and what we can do as we accelerate, as Bill Gates has challenged us, the innovation pipeline. We wish President Biden all the best as he convenes this World Climate Summit. And on that note, it's my honor today to bring to you on World Edition our special guest, Amber Cobb. Amber, welcome to the show. I wish it was in person.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you doing?
Wonderful, Amber. And we're going to, today, it's a smaller group, we're going to bring in our panel, but we're going to ask that you're the star of the show. So we want to have you tell us a little bit about Riot for the world audience. You're being listened to all around the world. And our panelists are Rakesh from New Zealand. So Riot can say hi to New Zealand. Brandon Scott is in the United States, but we have people in Delhi, all around the world, to listen to the show. No pressure. But tell us a little bit about Riot and talk about the exciting work in terms of growing what I love that word, the innovation pipeline, because you guys are doing a great job of that, particularly as it relates to the Internet of Things.
Well, thank you for such a nice compliment. Well, thanks everybody for having me here. So, Riot is a nonprofit that focuses on economic development in the space of technology and the data economy. We measure our success by job growth, and we believe that new jobs are being created where technology is new and emerging and disruptive. So, that's where we kind of live and breathe.
Okay, excellent. Now, tell us a little bit about, Riot has really evolved over the years. And I'm going to ask a few questions, and then my panelists, I want us to, this is going to be sort of an interactive session, but, you know, you have the startup accelerator, you
Mhm.
have the startup pitch, you're working with cities around our state of North Carolina in terms of helping them develop Internet of Things. How does this all play into the smart city that we hear a lot about? We've talked about World Edition, in terms of just what we can do, leveraging these technologies so that our cities can be smart when it comes to a cleaner, community, a an energy efficient community.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in the last 10 years specifically, there's been amazing strides in technology that are helping us achieve that goal of being a more sustainable state and country. And we believe that these innovations are coming from these citizens who've had these amazing ideas and need to just kind of take that product and get themselves to market and start piloting with all of our municipal friends. So part of the job that I lead at Riot is our smart cities initiatives. I hold a data sharing group that's regional here in North Carolina, and we investigate different use cases to help our smart cities get even smarter. And one of the ways that we identified that is that unfortunately, right now, our communities really aren't sharing data. And that's something that's really important for sustainability. You have to know what's happening around you in order to make some good predictive choices. So, our first use case we investigated was around stormwater. Stormwater is really interesting because it's completely ubiquitous and it doesn't care where those boundaries are. So, our team came together. We work with a couple of municipal partners like Morrisville, Holly Springs, the city of Raleigh, Cary, Wilson, North Carolina, and some others. And everyone put out these amazing rain sensors by this great startup that came through Riot's accelerator program called Greenstream, and have begun to share that data amongst themselves and then up into some GIS maps and a place called Feynman, which is where we look for stormwater. Now, what's really interesting about that is think about climate change. Our storms are becoming more frequent. Our rainfall is getting higher in a lot of cases. There's tons of coastal flooding. So having this initiative where we're using some new technology through this startup, as well as having the data shared among these municipal leaders, it's a game changer for us. So we're excited to be a part of that program.
Before we open it up to the panel, so over the course of the year, you have, we all, let me tell you, Riot had some of the best networking events. I have missed it so much just to go
Me
and have
too.
food, and I cannot wait until I go to a Riot event. But you've continued during the pandemic these accelerators, virtual events, pitch events, and what I've found very interesting about Riot is that you're actually inviting entrepreneurs to pitch and then solve a problem, right? Encouraging this kind of collaboration. So the data sharing project with the stormwater was one.
Mhm.
Are we seeing this resulting in new companies and new jobs being created in North Carolina, or the potential for that?
Absolutely. So, as it relates to North Carolina specifically, the startup that I mentioned before, Greenstream, they actually relocated here to Wake Forest so that they can help this economy grow. And that's been just an amazing thing to see. Our goal, I mean, obviously, we're headquartered here in North Carolina, and this is our home state, and we love it. But we want job creation everywhere. We want economic growth everywhere. So we strive by being as inclusive and open to everyone to participate in things like our programming, our accelerators, all free of charge, to help them grow and to have these sustainable companies really get some legs under them to be able to develop into something that's impacting our economy.
Fantastic. You got a few minutes, right? We know you're a busy woman, but we're going to make this interactive. So I'm going to now open it up to our panelists, maybe to give a little bit of perspective, and let's ask Amber some questions. As I segue into that, what I would say, for me, this has been a learning experience as a governmental official and also a media guy. That what I'm seeing is an intersection between technology and the environment, and how you can leverage these smart city technologies to help. drive more innovation. And I think it's really important. We in Morrisville have our own sustainability manager now. And so things like hybrid vehicles for our police force, solar panels in our fire station, um, working with our community to do like community stewardship events where we invite people to the park to clean up litter, right? Sensors in the parks so that individuals can be notified when there's a flood, so that someone doesn't have to drive a van out there. They can just get a notification, right? These are
Mhm.
simple solutions that take a lot of work, but sometimes it's not about the technology, it's the problem that you're solving, right? So I wanted to get that out there. I guess we're going to start. Let's get the New Zealand perspective. Rakesh, uh, what is your perspective about what Riot is doing? And do you see opportunities for collaboration maybe with New Zealand? I know Tom and Amber and I would like to take our governor over to New Zealand for a mission.
Absolutely.
Certainly, we're very excited about anything which connects with technology and sustainable technology. I remember when I first came to New Zealand, we had a little group which kind of a meetup group which was working on sustainable technology, and at that time things had not crystallized as they have today. Certainly, sharing information is important, and after that, I suppose the next layer is acting on that information, and encouraging more sustainable technology. Um, the I think the I'm not quite sure what exactly is happening in North Carolina, but out here in New Zealand, I've noticed that the street lamps have changed to more sustainable ones. More hybrid cars are available on the roads, and the government here has always been uh, pro environment. It's always been very environment sensitive. So I'm guessing that with Riot we could have plenty of scope, because you have fertile ground for interaction with a government that's already sensitized and ready for action in this direction.
Fantastic. Brandon, what are your thoughts about what we've been talking about? This has been exciting. Any questions for Amber or any insights?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was kind of looking into this morning, and nice to meet you, Amber. I'm one of the other producers here on World Edition, and so I was kind of looking into this, and I found something interesting. And I first want to commend you because I haven't fact checked this. I don't know if it's true, but the Wake Forest nonprofit website that they have said that you guys had a $500,000 grant out that was part of your accelerator program. So I commend you certainly for investing in renewable resources and STEM and in new technology. But one of the things I found was super interesting was on the Wake County Economic Development website. They ranked the Raleigh metro area just behind Austin in technology job growth over the last decade. Ranking North Carolina as number one in job growth relating to STEM, and a lot of funding and initiatives there. So I guess the first part is that obviously, congratulations on doing a lot of wonderful things. But of course, my question always is, when it comes to climate change, is it too late? Is there anything we can do? Investing in renewable energy, investing in small businesses, large businesses, medium businesses that have a more sustainable model. Are you optimistic about the future? Do you feel like there is a chance that in the next couple decades we'll be able to at least pause, if not undo, some of the harm we've caused? Is there hope?
Yeah, I'm an optimistic person in general. I think the science supports it right now, that if we as a world citizens are willing to make those hard changes, that there is the possibility that we can turn some of this damage around. But that's more than just one person or one family or one corporation making that commitment. It's everyone on this planet needs to buy into it and start making those changes. I think that in technology, there's this interesting opportunity. As we're coming out of this pandemic, I've read a lot of articles that say that everyone is burnt out, obviously, and in their jobs more so than ever. And a lot of those people are deciding to leave and start solving some of these problems. So my hope is that we see a lot more entrepreneurs hit the scene with these really innovative, creative ways that are going to make big impact. We work with an amazing company that's one of Riot's sponsors called Sulu Technologies. Take a look at them. They're working on a product right now that could really change the world. I can't talk too much about it, but they're one to watch. And then big corporations even are making strides. You mentioned streetlights, Rakesh, and Itron is another one of Riot's amazing sponsors. And their new initiatives involve working with young startups to help them grow and create this sustainable technology that's compatible with the things that they've been doing for years, as well as, of course, making all of those important changes to help impact the environment. So long answer to say, yes, I think there's still time. And I think the world is starting to wake up to, we actually need to do something.
Well, if I can have a quick follow up before Mark jumps in. So you mentioned Itron, and I could be wrong. This might be a different company, but the Itron I'm familiar with is a water resource management company headed up in Washington. Is that the same company?
So I think it's the same company, but Itron is a huge smart city vendor. They do everything from watt-hour meters, electricity meters, water meters to street lights. They're involved in everything. So it probably, I assume, is part of it. They're headquartered, I believe, in South Carolina.
Yeah. So I guess my sorry, I don't want to interrupt and hijack the interview, but I guess my follow-up question is, I want to talk a little bit about water and water resources, because we see this play out a lot in dystopian future movies, right? Mad Max and all these, water world resources.
Mm-hmm.
And so California recently announced that you were going to be able to start investing in water and trading and selling water futures. Earlier this, I think late last year, early this year. So water is such a key point of this. Now, I've been to the Carolinas many times, and you guys have some great water features, some great beaches in both Carolinas. I mean, they're both lovely states. When you are looking at companies to partner with, whether they be companies you're going to bring into your grant making program or potential sponsors, I guess my question is, do you weigh? Is there some sort of algorithm maybe internally in the company that weighs the futures of certain elements of these sustainable resources, right? Do you weigh higher water resources versus nuclear energy versus, is there some sort of thought process that goes into, who you want to work with as an organization?
Yeah, I definitely think that there is. There's may not be something that's published or public knowledge, but Riot's a pretty small team. It's amazing everything we're able to accomplish as a team of 8. But we have some core values that we subscribe to as a team and as an organization. And we try to make sure that we're partnering with people who share those values. And that's on everything from diversity, equity, inclusion to being conscious of the environment and the choices that they're making. So yes, I think we try to make a conscious effort to partner with the people that are similar to who we try to be. On the other side of that, with entrepreneurs, emerging technology is where we like to play. It's the space that we believe is where jobs are being creative. And to that point, we think every company is a technology company. So when we're looking at partnering or bringing people into our cohort for our accelerator, those are also considerations that we take. So Smart Ag is a great example of a vertical right now that's doing some amazing things to help sustain our environment and to improve on it. There's a couple of startups that are coming through Riot's next accelerator cohort that you should definitely keep your eye on. North Carolina is a big hog industry, and that creates a lot of waste. So I think we'll be surprised in the next few years to see what these amazing entrepreneurs are able to come up with as a way to combat some of that.
We got a few more minutes with you, Amber. Please don't go. Mark Lee is a radio celebrity as well, also a host of IBMTV shows. Talk to us, Mark, about what your perspective of what Amber has said about Riot and what it means in terms of our entrepreneurship initiatives and sustainability efforts, smart cities.
Well, one of the things I was going to say is that I'm a big fan, actually, of Riot. They've actually done a lot of great activities over at the Hayti Heritage Center, which is also one of the places that I have done a lot of work at, and they've actually done a lot of those accelerated programs over there. So I've actually been a fan of Amber as well as other members of the Riot team and everything. And I know that they've done some great work in terms of reaching out to the minority community to make sure that they are participating in a lot of their acceleration programs and things of that nature. I remember meeting one gentleman whose name is slipping me right now, who had built basically like a rechargeable battery type unit and all of that. And I know he came out of the Riot program and has actually taken that around the globe and everything along those lines. Wiggins, I believe, is his last name and all of that. But definitely there have been a lot of minority participation in the Riot program. And it seems to me that they've done a good job of trying to make sure that whether it's the African American community, the Latin American community, or the Indian community, all of which have significant populations here in the Triangle, that they are participating and they are definitely being made aware of the opportunities. Because like I said, a couple of their programs have been done at probably one of this state's largest African American cultural arts centers, that being the Hayti Heritage Center. But I'd love to hear Amber's thoughts about the importance of having minority participation and how they've been going about getting that involvement, because I know that they've also done work at North Carolina Central University as well as a lot of our HBCUs also. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
Thank you, Mark. And that's a great observation, and I appreciate that feedback. We're working really hard to, as I said, be as inclusive as possible. One of the things that's been really interesting to note through this horrible pandemic is that with Riot turning virtual for everything we do, including our accelerator, the applicants that we've gotten and the teams that we've put through in the last year have been our most diverse ever. Being virtual has allowed some founders and entrepreneurs to be able to keep a full-time job yet also work on their startup. So we've seen lots of diversity in that. And one of the best parts, from my perspective, I'm a mom of 2 toddlers, but we've had lots of parents be able to make this change as well, being working parents and still being able to help grow a new business. So that's been great. Our diversity, equity, and inclusion is really near and dear to my heart, and it's something I try to champion. I guess what Riot does really well is we don't just talk the talk, but we walk it too. So we try to make sure that everything we do has some element of that. So thank you for the feedback. That's great.
Oh, no problem. One of the things, and it actually comes back to something that Brandon was talking about, because he's right. We do have a lot of water resources here in North Carolina, and definitely that. But I've also seen throughout the state a lot of energy being put into wind resources as well. So I was wondering if you've been seeing a lot of development in that area, because I know I maybe a year or two ago was traveling with a friend of mine that does talent showcases, and he's originally from like toward Fayetteville area and toward that general area. And we were seeing, as we were traveling to one of our locations, actually he's from Kinston now that I think about it, but we were seeing those wind kind of buildings that were popping up in that general area. So I know that there is interest in wind and interest in solar as well, even here in North Carolina. So I was wondering if you were seeing any of the startups that are addressing that issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Alternative energy sources are definitely on people's radar as one of these new and emerging technology spaces, and people are trying to figure out how to do it well. Right now, with the combination of regulatory requirements on people to get these types of technologies out there and some of the limitations, it's definitely been challenging. But wind power is pretty unique. So I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and on the top of one of the mountains that were right below my house, there's all these amazing wind turbines, and they're working really hard there specifically to change it. And here in North Carolina, solar is a big initiative. There's another nonprofit locally called RTCC, Research Triangle Clean Cluster, that's working with some really great companies and entrepreneurs in that space as well. Definitely check those guys out. So yeah, alternative energies is the way to go. Obviously, we've shown over time that fossil fuels and whatnot are not as clean as we'd like them to be.
Last question, then I'm going to give it back to Steve and everything. But one of the things that I know one of our founders has been really pleased about and everything is the role of women and women entrepreneurs. She's actually, I'm thinking about Kim Calhoun. She's actually a woman entrepreneur in the engineering field and all of that. And then I'm friends with Jess Everhart, who has, of course, been very much involved in the entrepreneurship space as well. And then I've become friends recently with Hannah, who did that product called Nugget, which is like a couch product and everything. But I was wondering your thoughts about women entrepreneurs and how women are doing in that entrepreneurship space. Yourself being a woman, but I'd love to hear your thoughts just about women leadership here in the Triangle.
Here for that.
Yeah, you know what a great topic and what an interesting question. Women entrepreneurs, now I may be biased obviously, but I think women are definitely the future. We can get stuff done maybe a little bit more than people give us credit, and it's an amazing to have watched over the last few years just this outpouring of women trying to make a difference and make these great strides in technology. So just my hat's off to all of the women entrepreneurs there. We have a couple amazing ladies who have gone through our accelerator program who are doing just phenomenal things. The first one that comes to mind, and check her out, her company's name is Kinky Tresses. She makes all natural hair products. She was a chemist and decided to make the switch into entrepreneurship and took all of that knowledge that she got from all the years working in industry to being able to create some amazing products. And over the pandemic, she's been able to grow her business exponentially with online sales, as well as have a brick and mortar store out in Wilson. So take some time and look her up, guys.
Well, this is wonderful, and we have a couple more questions if you have time, Amber. But as a segue to women, what's interesting for our viewers is about a year and a half ago, I had the honor of introducing and welcoming Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank to the Umstead in Cary, and he gave a great talk to some executives. And what was interesting, first of all, he's really, really nice. He's very different than what you see on the show. But he said that when it comes to investing in a company, 9 times out of 10, he always invests in female entrepreneur companies, women-owned, because he goes, women know how to manage and multitask better. They know how to get things done, and they set goals that are more achievable. And he gave all these examples of that. Every time he's invested in a woman-run company, he just does really well. So a real shout out, Amber, to all of the women out there. And I just had to say that. But my question is, what advice do you have for cities and towns and how they can get started with smart cities? But more importantly, how do we encourage this connection between entrepreneurs and cities to solve problems, right? So I don't know if you could answer both those questions and just observations.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a tough question, and it's a good one, Steve. Thanks for asking it. So something that Riot's working on right now is called the Riot Your Reality Challenge. It's an AR competition that's been sponsored by Facebook Reality Labs and US Ignite, where we've partnered with 2 local municipalities, the city of Raleigh and the town of Cary, and had them give us some problem statements around their smart city efforts, their community, to allow for the community itself to try to solve them through entrepreneurship and innovation. What's interesting about that is cities and government, and I think, Steve, you can probably attest to this, aren't really set up to do the type of talent scouting and tech scouting that's needed to connect really interesting and innovative new technology ideas to the problems in the community. So partnering with organizations like Riot, who can run these kind of challenges and help source some of this new technology, and specifically in the space of entrepreneurs and startups, is a great way for cities to get into it. It's a little bit of time, a little bit of money on your part, but at the end of the day, maybe you find this amazing new product that you can integrate into your smart city efforts, showing what a phenomenal job you're doing as a government entity, but also help supporting all of our entrepreneurs and startups at the same time. Oh. So we're having we have 6 teams that are going through this challenge. I invite you all to come to our website and check them out. But more so, tune in on July 27th for our final pitch competition to see who wins. Facebook and the city of Raleigh and Cary and US Ignite and Google Fiber have been so generous to donate a great cash prize to help give some of these entrepreneurs a start in their new business ventures. And we're really excited to support them and see where they go.
Fantastic.
Amber, just really quickly, what's one of the most unique ventures that you have seen? Maybe not in the competition right now, because we don't want to bias people as they're watching, folks, but in the past competitions, what's one of the most unique ones that you have seen that has maybe even gotten the support of Riot? Because I'm sure that through your years of working there, you may have seen some unique kind of ventures, but I was just wondering what some of those were.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. You know, it's funny you say that. One of my favorite is Desmond Wiggins, the founder of Battery Chain Exchange.
Right.
They had this interesting product that helps charges cell phones. It's completely agnostic. It doesn't matter what the specific phone is, but they have the ability to charge them. And for me, I've been in trade shows, I've been at conferences, I've been at concerts, I've been at the mall and lost all of the battery in my phone. And, you know, that's a panicking feeling to have. But now that they've got this innovative product where I can go and rent a power bank just to charge my phone really quickly and continue on my day, I think that's fantastic. So I'm really pulling for those guys to do great things.
And this is great. Rakesh from New Zealand had a question.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I presume that Riot is being an accelerator, sort of gives an injection of financial muscle to an entrepreneur who starts up with an innovative product. But what is the follow through in terms of evaluating the impact of that product on the environment? Do you have any system at this stage to evaluate what happens after you have got the organization on its own feet? What is the impact of that on the environment? Is there sort of any metric developed?
That's a great question, Rakesh. And just to clarify, so Riot runs a zero fee, zero equity accelerator. We don't provide any funds out to these startups that work with us. What we do is provide them with something even more valuable, in my opinion, which is strong mentorship from all across different corporate entities and people on all levels of their careers to help them really structure a business in the right way, on top of the world-class curriculum that our program director, Rachel Newberry, has developed. So, and from that respect, we don't give them any actual financial support, though we do connect them with different types of funding and investors through all of, again, the curriculum that we work on. From Riot's perspective, we consistently and constantly solicit feedback from all of the startups that we've worked with we'll be starting our 8th cohort this year, and tracking what they've done, jobs creative, funds they've raised, as well as who they've interacted with. So part of what makes Riot really unique is that we're funded by corporate sponsors primarily, as well as grants and other initiatives. And what's great is these corporate sponsors that fund Riot are actually really interested in helping to support entrepreneurs. So they give their time, they give their money, they give their products to these entrepreneurs to help them develop these amazing businesses with a sustainability in mind.
Fantastic. I mean, go ahead. We have a few more minutes with Amber before we let her close out. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, one of the things I was going to ask really
I just
quickly
have a quick one before we jump to another question. So we're at the half-hour mark, so I just want to kind of shout out to folks watching. If you want to watch some more premium content, we've got lots of great episodes here at IBMTV.tv. You can go visit, sign up, watch lots of great premium episodes. But before we go to more questions, so Miss Amber, can you share if people want to support Riot, is there a donation link they can visit?
No, actually, Riot, oddly enough, is a nonprofit, but we operate more in a business sense. So if there are any individuals out there or corporates who are interested in hearing more about Riot, I encourage you to reach out to me. You can find me at amber@riot.org and visit our website, which is riot.org, and see everything that we're doing.
We had one more
One of the things I was going to ask really quickly is, I know a lot of people, entrepreneurs included, are big fans of social media, whether that's LinkedIn or a number of other things. Sometimes they're not big fans of doing business plans and things of that nature. So I was just wondering, from your standpoint, Amber, what are some of the errors that you have seen entrepreneurs make that you would like them not to be making, even when they're coming to you making these presentations? Because I'm sure that there are some things that you, as a basically y'all serve almost as a coach, would like to see entrepreneurs be more conscious of. So what are some of the mistakes that our entrepreneurs are making that you wish that they would be more cognizant of?
So I think there are probably two. And one is that they create a product without figuring out what the actual problem is they're trying to be solving first. Sometimes that works, obviously, but a lot of times we need to take a step back and look and figure out what that problem is that we need to solve before we start working on a product. And the second is not giving enough financials and staffing support into marketing. Your brand is what sells you, and understanding that's really important. So those are my 2 tips.
Oh, those are some great tips and everything. By the way, and I'm gonna turn it back over to Steve. He was mentioning Kevin from the Shark Tank and everything. And actually, I think if I remember correctly, that's the one that they call Mr. Wonderful. And I had the pleasure of having for the 3rd or 4th time Fran Harris on, and she's got an energy drink out. So she's definitely been getting a lot of support from kind of being accelerated as well, because she's a former WNBA player out of Texas. So even though it's not a Riot product, she's definitely doing a lot of great work, and she's even in the process of building some sports facilities, first starting off in Texas and then hopefully moving to North Carolina. So maybe she'll hook up with Riot when she comes this way and find some of our athletes as well that can get involved. Are you finding enough of our people that are in, like, say, the fields of athletes and celebrities that are getting involved locally with Riot? And if so, how are they getting involved? Because I know we have a lot of definitely athletes through the UNC systems and a number of others. And of course, there's a lot of musicians here. That's a field that is dear and to my heart, as well as filmmakers. So I was just wondering, are we seeing enough of the creative side being used in the Riot space?
Well, as director of partnership at Riot, I always think there could be more partnership, but we have an amazing ecosystem here in North Carolina, and everyone really does their part to help elevate these entrepreneurs and Riot's mission. So we're really grateful for that. But like I said, we could always use more support. So definitely reach out.
I have one final question, and Amber, you're welcome to stay for the hour. We have an engaging political debate, and it's been great to have you here. But, we recently, my final question, we've gone over your time, but it's been wonderful having you. And then we're going to allow you to say some closing remarks on behalf of Riot. And I will tell your boss, if he's watching, that you have done an excellent job. In fact, I might even go on a limb and say that you've done better than him.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you.
He challenged me every time I went to a Riot event. He would say, Steve, you know so many people. Why don't you bring more people? And I'm like, Tom, I'm now telling Riot all over the world about Riot. So hopefully more people will listen. And then when we do an event, we can have, we can go back to the in-person event in Morrisville at Big Tech RTP. But on speaking on that note, the future of work, right? So, we had Dr. Rawls recently on the show, WIC Tech president, talking about all the different things WIC Tech is doing. He just this week testified at the U.S. Senate Committee on the future of workforce in terms of, what employers are going to do during and after the pandemic. So do you forecast, and this might be a good last question before you close out, do you forecast a lot of new jobs and new skills being developed for some of these emerging technologies in IoT? Are we seeing the role of work changing?
Yeah, what an interesting question. And I think the answer is yes to both. The role of work and the role of the worker is definitely changing in a way that I don't think people quite were prepared for. This pandemic has shown us a couple of really interesting things. One is that Americans need a better work-life balance. And I think we're all actively working on figuring out how to do that well. And that this old corporate structure of this 8-to-5 job and sitting in an office maybe isn't as best for business as well as the employees as we thought it was. Having some flexibility, giving our employees the ability to work from home. I mean, we're such a connected community that we have all of these technical capabilities and the technology stack behind us to be able to allow for a little bit more freedom and flexibility. And at the end of the day, I think everyone is seeing that when you give your employees just a little bit of autonomy and more flexibility, they're 100% more productive than they ever were sitting in an office building. So my hope is that moving forward, people recognize that a little bit more, and all of our employers and corporates take a harder look at maybe employee satisfaction and how to keep those really great employees in place. As far as the technology aspect of it, absolutely, there are new technology jobs being added every day, especially here in North Carolina. I think the statistic I have read recently is that 79 people every single day move to the RTP region because there's so many new jobs, and most of them evolve around that technology space. So we're really excited to watch this area grow and happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, and John Chambers, who we had at a virtual startup summit last May, former CEO of Cisco and a family friend of mine, he runs an venture firm, but he said there could create over 15 million new jobs in the next decade as we automate away. But many of those would be on IoT and sensors and technologies. And so the jobs in the future are going to be the jobs that we create by leveraging this innovation. Are there any? Sorry, go
Just
ahead.
really quickly, I just thought of this question. I know that we're going hybrid this time, Amber, and of course we're still in the middle of hybrid with just about, well, virtual, I should say, virtual with just about everything, but definitely a lot of education is going hybrid. I was wondering, even as we come out of the pandemic, and I think that the governor has said that by June we should be able to definitely have the mask mandates, but a lot of the restrictions will be lifted. Do you see in 2022 the accelerated program either being at a set locations like it has been in the past with the past cohorts, or do you see it as a hybrid event where some of the people are coming in, like maybe a Rakesh will bring a team from New Zealand, from elsewhere, and then we'll have folks that are still at a physical location here?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we've noticed again is that being virtual has allowed us to just increase our diversity of our participants and open it up to people who wouldn't have traditionally been able to participate in the accelerator because of physical location or time commitment. So what we're hoping to be able to do is going forward, have all of our accelerators have some type of hybrid component to it. So it allows for a more diversified cohort.
Fantastic. Are there any closing remarks before we let you leave today in terms of Riot? And I want to make it official. I think I'm going to appoint Amber as a panelist on Internet of Things whenever she wants to.
Oh, my goodness.
Because you've done such an excellent job today. And but tell us your final remarks on behalf of Riot and what you want folks around the world to learn today about.
Oh my gosh, that's a wow.
Well, what are your closing thoughts?
Well, Steve, thank you so much for having me and all the panelists. I really enjoyed speaking to you guys. Just check out Riot. Go to our website, riot.org. We're on a mission to make job creation something that happens everywhere. And again, we see it as happening in the space of technology. So reach out. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. We try to lead with helping first, so we're always here. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, on behalf of the IBMTV and also as an elected official and all the citizens and entrepreneurs you work with, we want to thank Tom Snyder and you and the entire team at Riot. Carolyn Griffin, I'm honored to work with you, and we're always here to help. But folks, go to NC Riot as we emerge from the pandemic. I can't wait to next year, be there at an event and have a brew and have some great food and, interact with people. But thank you, Amber, and have a great week. And be safe.
Certainly. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, that was an excellent show, folks. And Brandon, thank you for being with us. It's always great to have Brandon. And Brandon's such a natural salesman. You just go right in. I love it.
Brandon's a great salesman. He does a great job. He's just amazing individual. I just wish he would sometimes appear when I need him with my theater folks. So sometimes I got my theater folks, and he's so busy with what he's got going on that he's not even doing his own travel show because he's so busy trying to maintain other things for the IBM family and all of that. So we got to get him to get his travel show back and everything. Steve, I was just going to ask you, and I guess this is for everybody on the panel, including down under in the New Zealand area, but I was pleasantly surprised when I saw that the governor is about to open up the state in June. So as a person over there in Mooresville, what are your thoughts? And then I'd love to hear Brandon's thoughts where he's at in Florida. Maybe they're opening up as well.
Well, for those of you around the country and around the world, in North Carolina, which is the 9th largest state in the country in the United States, our governor, if you're in India, you would call him chief minister. The governor announced yesterday that he will be easing all COVID-19 restrictions in terms of no more, restrictions in terms of number of people with outdoor events, number of people with indoor events, but he will keep the mask mandate until June 1st. So I think by April 30th, all of these restrictions will end, and it looks like things will open up again, which will be really great. And we're just going to have to keep our fingers crossed, and vaccinations are going a lot better. We vaccinated 3,800 in Wake County yesterday at the PNC Arena where the Carolina Hurricanes play. But, and I don't know, Brandon, what's going on in Florida, but we are seeing a significant increase now we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, in terms of being able to go out and hang out. Brandon, what's going on in Florida?
Well, I mean, so I would say, I want to throw it to Rakesh here because he probably has a more interesting perspective than those of us in the States. But Florida's been open since June of 2020. We opened pretty much everything up. We've had large parties at bars and packed beaches and sold out resorts through most of 2020. So, we're led by a Republican governor. We could kind of care less about human life and safety. I don't want to throw any fireballs. Just throwing it out there as it is. To be said. So I'm glad that the Carolinas and most of the Midwest is keeping the mask mandate in place, because the one thing science has so far yet to really have any demonstrable evidence of is whether or not vaccinated people can still carry and spread the virus. So it's probably good that we're still wearing some masks in spaces even after we're vaccinated. Rakesh, now in New Zealand, I understand everything is, you guys have had significantly less cases than us, significantly better time of the pandemic than we have. Some people have said we're starting to roll out the vaccine a little earlier than other countries have here in the States. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know you had something you wanted to kind of share. So let me throw it over to you.
Yeah, the one of the questions is that the decision making around opening up a place. The debacle that is happening in India right now, and part of the reason why that is happening is that nobody knows what sort of things to factor in while making an objective decision. Perhaps percentage of people vaccinated, or the number of cases reported and things like that. This doesn't seem to be any algorithm figured out. So I would be rather chary about lifting restrictions so fast, even keeping in mind that businesses have to run. Restrictions, of course, can be lifted, but sanitation measures like the mask, would have to persist for quite a while. I noticed that here in New Zealand, unless you're traveling on public transport, and even that is not strictly monitored, you don't have to wear a mask. And when I did make a sort of a sortie with just public transport, using the bus and train. And I found that there are a significant number of people who don't wear a mask, even though the government, has asked for the mandated wearing of a mask. And even after being reminded on the train, I saw certain people refusing to wear the mask. So, I'm just wondering, on what basis is a decision taken? And then the next question would be, even with a small population of 4.5 million, we're unable to monitor. And the people who travel on public transport are minuscule in New Zealand. Almost everybody uses a car, ramshackle or otherwise. But so what's going on in the States, where you've had a fairly severe spread of the virus, and how are decisions being taken in the United States?
Well, I can take a perspective in North Carolina. Maybe Brandon could talk about Florida. But I mean, first of all, in North Carolina, our decisions are made by our governor and his Secretary of Health and Human Services, Dr. Mandy Cohen, who was actually a candidate to be the secretary for the president and decided not to do it. And her statement is that right now the decision to, like, for example, remove the mask mandate and ease restrictions is based on the percentage of the population vaccinated. So when that number hits 2/3 of the population, then North Carolina will completely open up and it will be official that we have herd immunity. We're starting to see now the vaccinations starting to slow down, because across the country, I think 200 million was the president's goal. And just like the flu vaccine, you're not going to vaccinate all 365 or 70 million Americans. So I think that's sort of what Dr. Fauci and the federal coronavirus task force are doing. So the decisions, so for example, all 16-year-olds now across the country in all 50 states can get vaccinated, right? That's only the Pfizer vaccine. And so there are efforts being made for high schools, seniors to get vaccinated. Graduations in North Carolina are going to be allowed in person now on the football fields. So I was speaking at one this year, but or I've been invited, but last year it was just one at a time, and now it's going to be 500, right? So I hope that answers your question, Brandon.
Yes, yes.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we have to first talk about the difference a little bit. As the travel guy here on IBM TV, I want to first point out that as of now in April, the United States 7-day average for COVID cases, arguably, depending on who you believe, is between 65 and 75,000 cases a day, new cases a day of COVID. That's about on par with where we were last summer. And people are saying, but it's lower than the holidays, so we can kind of relax everything and people are getting vaccinated. In perspective, New Zealand, as I understand, its 7-day average of cases in April at their highest was between 5 and 24. So I think that there's, obviously I think the history books are going to look at the United States and completely mock everything we did. It's going to be
I don't think
Vietnam.
New Zealand can claim much credit. We are geographically advantaged by the fact that we're sort of two islands stuck in the middle of the Pacific. But
Right.
so I don't think, and the only thing that we can claim is that the Prime Minister was decisive and took early action to prevent ingress of the virus. But after that, there's precious little that has been done, actually.
Well, I think that's where you can
Rakesh.
take some credit, because I think New Zealand needs to take some credit there, because you guys have, from the beginning, at least looked at this and gone, this is something we should at least be worried about. Whereas the previous administration, when COVID started to come to the States, said, this is fine, it's nothing. 100,000 Americans are dying a day. We don't need to wear masks. We don't need to shut anything down. We can keep going. So I do think you have some credit there. Now, Mark, I know, in
I just had a quick question. I just had a quick question for Rakesh, and it was actually something that I've oftentimes been wondering, and I've actually got other friends, even locally in the science community. But what I was going to ask Rakesh was, I guess one of my concerns is that I'm glad that we're getting the vaccinations. I actually am behind in that. I know that's something I need to do, and my folks are definitely letting me know that. But not that being set aside and everything, I'm also concerned about that even if we get fully vaccinated, everybody in the country gets vaccinated, there are variants that are coming out as well. So I guess what I'm wondering is, do we need to be worried about the fact that even if, let's say, all of America and all of the world got vaccinated, that the pandemic is over? Because I'm of the opinion that we definitely still have some concerns out there, and we need to be concerned. And I'm just afraid. If I study history, I remember that the first pandemic, some 100 years ago and everything, there was a time frame where everybody was feeling very good about what happened. And then we got hit with a second wave, and there was even, I want to say, more deaths that happened. And I was wondering, do we have the fear that that might happen even in this case? Hopefully it won't, but I'm just wondering your thoughts from a scientific standpoint.
From a scientific standpoint, I can say pretty much it will happen, because there are many variants. There's the double variant from India. There's the South African variant, which does not get, which none of the vaccines have been able to stop. And and not only that, from the structure of the RNA of this, because of 30,000 base pairs, the chance of mutations are very, very high. Even if you do get, you could still be a carrier. You could still be a carrier. So people who are in vulnerable situations are always going to have, a tough time. I think we will see the end of this taper off in a kind of a Gaussian curve, which sort of will take a long time to get rid of it, but the incidence will sort of decrease over a period of time. But again, that is purely based on my management training and my understanding of the virus. I would be very, very careful about this particular virus. But I think it could also, we could get lucky in the sense it might become less virulent, so to speak. So I'm hoping that with the vaccines, the most dangerous strains will be sort of eliminated from spreading.
And Kimberly Calhoun, we want to say hi to her. She just pinged in and said hi, but she wanted to remind us that it could be something else than COVID, And so I think we have to remind ourselves, just like Bill Gates warned us, that pandemics are going to be more common as we population centers grow. We're a globally connected economy. And I think the key is we all have to be prepared for isolating, testing, making sure that we're, when a pandemic does hit, to find out where it is and reduce the spread. And then leverage and learn. Maybe we learn from this pandemic of what we can do to be more effective in terms of dealing with it, right? I mean, I think that, that's my perspective. And President Biden, I think, has been effective in being able to come up with a more aggressive vaccination plan and making sure that he's getting us moving in the right direction, right? But so much of his first 100 days, very soon he would have been the president for 100 days. And pretty much the entire 100 days has been dealing with the COVID-19. But he told us that before he was elected and after he was sworn in, that his number one priority was to help us healthier and to get the economy back. Now we got to see the economy.
Well, I think that's the key. I think that's the key, at least here in the States.
Back. You see, it's not just the economy. I think after the economy, we also need to start looking at how we can repair the environment, because we need to have a situation where we are, not likely to be exposed to this kind of animal-human interaction which caused this pandemic in the first place.
Yes,
we need to preserve their environments.
Right, exactly. We're closing in on the final minute and a half or 2 minutes of the show. Are there any final? Tomorrow is our Build Back Better playbook. We're going to be talking about the environment and climate and maybe some different things that we can continue to do, and maybe a little bit to talk about the climate summit that the president is hosting today virtually. I guess it's like eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I will pick today, since we don't have him as often, Brandon to give us the final word of the day.
Well, I guess my final word of the day would be, no matter where you're watching, whether you're watching on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook, the one thing you can do to support the IBMTV network is like, subscribe, and follow. So if you're on YouTube, subscribe to that YouTube channel. If you're watching on Twitch, hit that follow button. If you're watching on Facebook, hit that follow button. You'll be alerted when we go live. We have our own World Edition YouTube channel and Facebook page if you're watching there. Make sure to hit those buttons, because the one thing that keeps us on the air is your support. So be sure to keep watching, because we have lots of great content coming for you here in the next few weeks. Not only do we have World Edition here on the IBM TV network, we have lots of other great shows, whether they're about math, science, chess, entertainment, comedy, music, everything you can ever imagine. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you're feeling handsy, you're feeling fancy, visit IBMTV.tv. You can sign up for a subscription there. You can also donate there to the organization, because the only way we can keep smart television on the air for you is if you guys hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, follow us wherever you're watching. So my word to you is that, listen, we've got a long way to go. We've got a lot of things coming. IBM TV was born out of the challenging labors of the pandemic starting, and we've really hit a stride, I think. So make sure you're following us everywhere you can.
And don't forget the store.
And don't forget the store. Yeah, you can buy some IBM TV swag. That's right, Mark. If you do want to buy, we have a World Edition notebook. So if you're watching the show every morning and you want to take notes, or maybe you just want to keep a diary, you can get a notebook there. You can get mugs, t-shirts, all sorts of great stuff at IBMTV.tv. Click the store button. And, I hope to see you all there. And I appreciate you all watching today on the platforms you're watching on. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all very soon.
Well, folks, we've had a wonderful show today. I want to go ahead and thank Brandon for being with us. I want to thank Rakesh for being with us in New Zealand. I want to thank Kimberly for being with us virtually. We're watching. We miss you. And it's been a wonderful show. We talked about the Internet of Things today, Riot. Tomorrow, we'll talk about the Build Back Better playbook, continue to develop our plays. We wish the president well in his climate summit. And wherever you are, we continue to pray for healing in America as we build bridges with each other. And remember that the light and love of our hearts is what is going to get us through this pandemic together as one nation in one world. From my family to yours, we wish you all the safety. This is Steve Rao, April 22nd, signing off. And I wish I could be Walter Cronkite and say, that's the way it is. I remember watching him as a kid. So I always wanted to do that. And that's the way it is. April 22nd, 2021. We'll be back tomorrow for another edition of World Edition. Thank you so much. Please keep watching.